The two of you continue through the castle. Occasionally you hear distant things, a shout or crashing voices. Soon you come to a door with light streaming out through its cracks. You open the door ever so slightly and peek in. You see a cloaked man frantically pacing back and forth, a torch in his hand. His cloak is open, revealing a muscled frame inked with tattoos. You think you make out at least one of the tattoos to be a symbol of Neural, god of the undead. This reminds you of the tattooed body of a man hung in the city square only a month ago. He was believed to be an evil priest of Neural and was accused of terrible crimes, including raising zombies. Focusing on the rest of the room, your fears quickly confirmed. There is a large stone symbol of Neural built into the wall. The stonework appears to be of new construction. In addition, there is a luxurious curtain adorning the wall, as well as a number of Spartan beds. Priests of Neural are not fools, and are able to harvest power from their deity to cast dangerous spells. However, you have the element of surprise, and there's only one of them. You nod to Regnold, and the two of you burst in the room. Your quarry appears young. Although his face is scarred, he looks at you with the expression of a man who is presently soiling himself. He ducks back as Regnold swings his sword, but not fast enough. The blade slashes his shoulder. He tries to run while chanting something likely a prayer to his foul god. You strike him in the back with a bolt of flame. That engulfs his cloak in fire. He screams and thrashes just before Regnold cuts him down with one great cleave. Perhaps now that I reflect upon this, we should have tried to keep him alive. We still know naught of the fate of the rest of the caravan, you say with a frown. In battle there is no time for regret, and not a scratch on us this time. I call that victory, declares Regnold. Now that you are in the room, you can see that you are in living quarters. There are simple beds along the wall and a good-sized chest in the corner. Treasure, you think, as you run over and try to lift the lid. Locked. That Nerulian priest did not die quietly, so perhaps you should have Regnold smash the lid with his sword and then get out of here. On the other hand, there ought to be a key around here somewhere. Maybe you should take a few seconds to check. Break the chest. Regnold brings his sword crashing down on top of the chest. The wood splinters with a few more whacks. You can pry the top off. Inside is a bag full of gold pieces, a small black-bound writing book, and what appears to have been some platinum-engraved china that is now smashed. Leaving the broken china, you gather up your loot and hurry out of the room. The two of you have only taken a few steps into the dark alley when you see flickering light up ahead and hear the scuffling of feet. You could run back into the room and hide, prepare a firebolt to cast down the hall, or cast an illusion to distract who is coming. Prepare a fire spell. You keep your voice low as you speak the arcane words needed to ready your spell. Only a moment later, two priests of Neural round the corner, their torches thrust out in front of them. You hurl the bolt of fire down the hallway before they can react and strike one priest squarely in the chest. He ignites and falls to the ground, screaming. The other one points at you, and you hear a crackling sound. You expected this and try to press your body against the wall, but you are grazed by the black magic and cold radiates into your body. Regnold charges the remaining priest and cuts him down. You take the time to search the bodies and find golden, unholy symbol medallions on each of them, as well as one silver dagger. Not bad for 20 seconds of work. I tire of looting corpses. Let us be off to rescue the merchants and receive a glorious reward, you exclaim. Off you go deeper into the castle. Soon you find yourself in a library. However, all the books are gone. From the tall wooden shelves, either stolen or destroyed. As a wizard, this is disappointing to you. All castle libraries have secret doors, you announce, After searching for a little while, you notice a small statue of a winged boy reading a book worked into the stone wall. You press on the statue's arm and it shifts down. There is a grinding sound and you see the bookshelf nearby crack open from the wall. You wedge your fingers into the gap and pry open the door. Immediately before you are stairs ascending into the darkness. Dear reader, normally I would give you a choice of whether or not you go down the stairs, but really, who finds a secret door and chooses not to investigate? And so, with the lantern in hand, you descend a few steps and then listen. It's deadly quiet down here and chilly. You urge Reginald to take the lead. After all, he's wearing the armor. There is a small metal lever on the inside of the passage that you suppose is what you used to open the door from the inside. Nevertheless, you decide to leave the door open. The last thing you need is to get trapped in this evil-smelling place. It is some time before you finally reach a small, empty chamber. On the far wall is a large iron door. Scrawled over the door is rusty red dye, or more likely, dried blood. Is a set of elaborate symbols. Gods, what is that? Says Reginald, playing the lantern light over the symbols. It is writing in the infernal tongue, you say, a language of devils, demons, and other beasts that inhabit the nightmare universes. At times I do not envy your knowledge, says Reginald with a faint shudder. The study of magic leads to many dark places, you say. The trick is to not wander too far into the void. What does it say? Asks Reginald in a tone that is not at all enthusiastic or curious. You study the symbols. They are crudely drawn, as though in haste, perhaps scrawled by bloody fingers. I cannot be sure. I believe it is a ward of some sort, a protection spell. A protection spell using such a foul language? Reginald sniffs. I would expect a curse or a fiendish summoning. It is protection against such summoning, a barrier. You say evil knows evil best. And a spellcaster of black magic understands the need to protect himself from the terrors they bring into this world. Reginald grimaces and points the tip of his sword at the warded door. Only a fool will go down there, although I am more of a man of curiosity than wisdom. You slap his shoulder, making a dull sound against his breastplate, as you have proven time and again. What do you want to do? Open the door. Maybe there's a treasure room beyond, you joke. Fortune and glory, my friend, Reginald says with a broad smile. The large iron door shudders and screeches as Reginald slowly pries it open. Once open, your friend's face drops, and you soon realize why a powerful stench wafts up from the dark stairs below. He takes a deep breath and plunges down the stairway. The two of you descend for some time before you enter into a large room eerily illuminated by green flaming torches fastened to each of the walls. Near the far wall is a dais leading up to an altar with skulls inlaid into the frame, some human, others of animals, or perhaps monsters. The lower altar is blood-stained and covered with candles and golden candle holders arranged around a book. The book is bound in what might very well be mummified human skin with hand and finger bones embedded into the cover as though the book were in the grasp of the dead. The title is infernal, but you don't recognize the words. Beyond the book is a raised part of the altar, white stone seemingly scoured clean of bloodstains. The surface has more candles, a golden cup, and a large golden bowl filled with some dark liquid, maybe blood. Just before the altar is a narrow but deep pit. Shining the lantern in, you make out something gleaming white. A skeletal arm and hand. Reginald adds his light to yours, and you can now see a heap of bodies at various stages of decay. The heap is crawling with rats and other vile scavengers. Sacrifices, the source of the stench, you mutter. I would bet my last copper that Sibba's father and the rest of the caravan are among them. Reginald makes a face of disgust. I say we swiftly pilfer what we can from this unholy place and leave. As he says this, the bowl on the altar begins to tremble as the candlelight around it ripples. Something is coming, you whisper. It is already here, says Reginald. Black Smoke billows up from the bowl and swiftly takes shadowy form of a horned fiend. His glowing, pitless eyes rove about the chamber, taking in everything. Demon, you shout. Despite the terrified look on his face, Reginald has already unslung his backpack as though preparing to scoop valuables from the altar. He might have the right idea. After all, you came here for loot, and it might take a moment for the shadow beast to fully take form. That strange book might be valuable. Finally, you can disrupt this fiend's arrival by knocking over the bowl. But do you dare? After all, this monster hasn't acknowledged you yet, and messing about with his bowl is likely a dangerous way to introduce yourself. Grab the book and run. Loot and run, you whisper as you open the backpack and toss the book into your bag. Reginald gets to work, blowing out candles and throwing the golden candlesticks into his backpack. You follow his example. You have nearly cleared off the lower table of the altar when you hear your soul and mind. The voice is a hiss, and its words are in the infernal language. Now we run, you shout as you turn, slinging on your backpack. A terrible cold grips your shoulder, making you scream. Breaking free of the cold, you bolt up the stairs, leaping 3 steps at a time. There is a wheezing snarl not far behind you. Make through the large iron door. The door is heavy and the hinges are tight. Nevertheless, you expect that if you don't hurl your weight against it, you can knock it shut, but this will take time and the demon is nearly upon you. Try to close it. You run into the room, turn back, and slam your weight against the door, which is grudgingly shuts with a whine of its hinges. Well, it almost shuts. Some debris has fallen in the way, keeping it open a crack. There is a snarl and the door shakes, but the arcane symbols scrawled on the door appear to be a word meant to provide a barrier to spirits. You would like to open the door enough to kick the debris out of the way and shut it properly, but you don't dare. Instead, you concentrate on running as fast as possible up the stairway after Reginald. As you reach a secret door in the library, there is a great bang that echoes from below, followed by a jubilant shout of freedom. Keep running, you shout to Reginald. He does not seem to need this encouragement. As he sprints out the library door, you follow him out and down several passageways. Rounding a corner, you are suddenly in a large, lavish French room filled with the soft light of dozens of candles. In the middle are 3 of the evil priests holding hands, surrounding what appears to be a pile of corpses. The men are chanting in the infernal language. One of the corpses begins to twitch. Just to the side of the priest stands the massive ogre, his pale white body and large, cold, dark eyes fix on Reginald. Meanwhile, the corpse that has been twitching springs up to its feet with alarming speed. You think you recognize him as one of the priests you had killed earlier. The undead creature levels its hungry gaze upon you. Crushing move, you dominated. You point to the ogre and recite magical words, pausing now and then to blow kisses into the air. The ogre, who was about to swing his mighty club at Reginald, instead turns his attention to you. You are not entirely sure, but you think you see the soft glow of ogre affection in those large dark orbs. One of the priests throws a large candle at you and then begins reciting a spell. When the poorly aimed and weakly thrown candle misses you, the ogre slams the priest in the face with his club, smashing it like a melon. Yes, you shout to the ogre, kill them all. The undead corpse springs at you, but the ogre grabs it by the leg in midair, and it crashes to the floor, and the zombie then grapple each other, clawing, biting, and strangling. Reginald has since gathered his wits and slays another of the priests with his sword. The 2 of you fall upon the remaining priest the old medieval way, cutting and stabbing with blades. Soon that poor fool is nothing more than a bloody mess on the floor. You look over and see that the ogre has dismembered the now motionless undead priest. But in the process, however, it has been grievously wounded. Its neck has been ripped open and purplish blood is pumping out. It looks at you pleadingly before collapsing. Stat booster available. You can spend luck points to improve your stats and possibly get you through tough parts. You will now find an option to boost your level stats at the bottom of your choices. No more reminders. Yes. If you don't want to turn video reminders back on. Oh, if I want to. Not now. Oh. As you and Ragnar catch your breath, from somewhere in the castle echoes the distant raspy cackle of that dark spirit with the hellish eyes. A chill goes up your spine. You do not want to tangle with that thing again. You suspect neither of your spells nor blades can harm it. Perhaps it would be wise to run from this cursed place. On the other hand, maybe you could afford to take a few seconds to search the body of your recently fallen enemies. But there is still the matter of the merchant's daughter, Siba. Siba. Come, Ragnar, we must find her, you say. Two of you are debating where exactly you should go to accomplish this when there is a blood-curdling scream not far off. Before you can react, you see Siba's eyes, her eyes bloodshot run into the candlelight. Gods we praise you, exclaim. Gods we must flee, a monster comes. Siba shouts. The three of you run. The ears, you complain as you run through the castle. Entranced chamber, you are referring to the goblin corpses from which you could harvest trophies. No number of robbery years are worth your soul. Reginald exclaims. Despite your present anxiety, this strikes you as somewhat funny, and you plan to remind him of his words later if you survive. For now, you do as your friend advises and keep running. The three of you retreat to the forest. You are all exhausted and so once safely away from that cursed ruin, you are reasonably certain no evil follows. You make camp because you are still in Goblin Country. You decide against the campfire. Instead, you will have to just make do with the sleeping roll in your backpack. It is a rather cold night, and you know Siba carries nothing but the ripped-up clothing on her back. What do you do? Offer to share. You cad. Naughty. Coins. You cad. I'm tempted to give you a moral point for your bold choice. Unfortunately, this scene does not play out that way. You invite Siba to share your blanket with you. She cocks her head, gives you a suspicious look, and politely declines. Reginald offers his own blanket. She smiles at him, takes the blanket with courtesy, and goes off to find a tree to curl up around. It would have been warmer still with me, you think to yourself. Alas, not everyone can be as practical as you are. Since Reginald's cold anyway, he decides to take the first watch. You're awoken well before dawn, and you loan him your blanket as you sit up to keep an eye out for danger. As you settle into your watch, your eyes wander to the sleeping merchant's daughter. A silver sliver of moonlight has escaped through the branches above and illuminates her delicate nose. You decide that it's a pretty little nose. For whatever reason, this leads you to wonder if even your pinky would fit into one of her tiny nostrils. You chuckle to yourself as you imagine the expression on her face, that waking with fingers in her nose, and then you feel a pang of guilt for imagining this. The young maiden has just lost her father. I should not make sport of her. Even in my mind, you think it's obvious that you need something to occupy your thoughts in order to stay awake. You wait until Ragnar begins snoring before you pull your spellbook out of your backpack. Ragnar hates it when you study while you're supposed to be keeping watch, but you need something to distract you from the cold. With flint and tinder, you light a single candle to read by the arcane text that you have read 1,000 times over, but differently each pass through provides a sort of familiar comfort you are grateful for in this dark forest, and you are lost in study. After some time, you can never keep track of time. When immersed in magical lore, you exclaim, "Yes, danger!" Ragnar roars over, his eyes slits. He is only half awake. I understand invisibility. I can turn invisible at last. This spell has eluded me for so long, at least I think I understand, you say as you point down at the arcane symbols in your book. Go to sleep, Ragnar slugs, and then his head falls back to the ground. This is Goblin Country, and I am on watch. I dare not sleep, you say. But Ragnar does not hear you. He is snoring again. It turns out that you are not so vigilant after all. At some point, You gaze at the candle flame. You fall asleep. Awakened, someone is near. Reginald whispers as he shakes you. You sit up groggily. It is early morning. At first all you hear are singing birds. Then, sure enough, voices trickle in the trees. Not goblins, not in the daytime. You think they approach upon the trail. Sybil says, huddling in her blanket to the trail. Then, but keep quiet, says Reginald. Why? Why not stay still and let them pass us, Sybil? Because we are adventurers. You whisper fiercely as you gather your backpack, refusing to be left by herself. Sybil follows as you creep up to the edge of the trail. Thank the gods she is not sniffling or otherwise making a racket. You have just taken up your position in the brush, where you see the first of the column of priests of Mary. Several of them are speaking terribly loudly, even as though they, and not the goblins, own this part of the wood. As they pass by, you see in the middle of the column a large stretcher made of thick wood branches and rough spun fabric. It's carried by 8 priests. Upon the stretcher is a pure white horse, whose legs bound with rope. Not a horse, but a unicorn. You have not seen one before, but the long, softly glowing horn is a dead giveaway. Several meters behind the main party are a tall man and a woman. You know the young woman. Where do we say you know of her? She is the beautiful Lady Igraine, daughter of Lord Igraine. Her father holds a keep and estate some distance from town, and her family comes to Ring City for annual tournaments. More than once you have gazed wistfully at her from the cheap seats far in the corner of the jousting arena. Allow me to take a moment to apologize to those readers who in real life prefer to gaze wistfully at some men, since you are playing the part of a heterosexual male wizard and are now gazing most wistfully at this woman. You are disappointed and somewhat horrified, though, not because she's a woman, but because she is, in fact, a Nerulian priest. And the man with her, you wonder after a moment you recognize him as her father, Lord Igraine. To think a man of such illustrious line would get mixed up with this evil lot. Anyway, back to Lady Igraine. Her jet black hair is pulled back to reveal a most shapely long neck. Her flawless skin glows in the dawnlight. It is as though the sun itself, desperate to touch her, has found a path through the forest canopy, the golden and holy symbol of Neuron hanging over her bosom, contrasting nicely with her large brown eyes. We cannot go back there, not yet, Lord Igraine is saying. Why would we go back ever? That ruin offers no decent bath, Lady Igraine replies. There is some unfinished business, however. It can wait, Lord Igraine says as he absently pats the pocket of his immense full fur-lined overcoat. The old one will move on from the castle Inverness to seek the living. Let us hope he does not exact revenge upon us. After the column has passed out of earshot, Reginald sighs. A unicorn, was it not? Where did they find such a creature, and what do they plan to do with it, you ask? I wager they do not plan to simply feed her apples and comb her mane. Reginald replies, her? It is a lady unicorn, you ask? Oh, I did not look in that, decisive area. Reginald blushes. Such a craven and pathetic simpleton, Sybil sees as she glares after the column of priests disappearing around a bend. I propose we tie each of them down and cut off one finger at a time. We will bind their wounds to ensure they will not lose too much blood and fall unconscious. I will then take their eyelids and... Oh, I do not think all that will be necessary. You drop there, perhaps 24 of them, and I do not think we will have time for all that work. You and Reginald exchange perplexed looks, and then Reginald whispers in your ear, young maidens love unicorns. Sybil regards the two of you with hard eyes. We should attack them now and make them pay for their transgressions. There are too many, Reginald protests, even with the element of surprise. I thought you said you were adventurers, Sybil interrupts. Adventurers, not idiots. Reginald replies, his pride clearly hurt. There are only 3 of us, and they are slowed by their burden. We could cut through the woods and get ahead of them. We shall ambush them as they come by, or we could follow them from a distance and learn more about our quarry. Perhaps strike at a more opportune time, Reginald says. and perhaps they will notice us following them, or perhaps they are journeying to some vile fortification that we cannot hope to storm. I say we ambush them now while they're in the open, Siba says. Here's where you spend luck to boost some of your critical stats. Note that you're only allowed to spend 10 luck when boosting stats. However, there is a reset each time you go back. There are occasional choice outcomes that will straight up kill you. Boosting is helpful, but no guarantee for survival. Okay. Save changes. Awake, and someone is near. Regnal whispers that what? Oh, okay. Mm, um, ambush them. Ambush. We have surprise on our side, and they are about as vulnerable now as we can hope. Perhaps if we strike their line where the unicorn is being carried, we can cut the creature loose before they know what is happening. You say, a bold plan. You best be swift and your blade keen to free the unicorn before they slay us with their death magic. Reginald says. The three of you run into the forest a good distance from the trail and make haste, trying to pass the priest by traveling parallel to them. This is all the more difficult since you have to leap over fallen logs and batter your way through brush while the priests have a nice dirt path to walk on. By the time you take up your strategic positions in force, you are breathing hard. The plan is for you to attack first with a large gout of flame. Reginald will then leap out with his sword to cover you as you cut the unicorn free. Sybil will remain hidden up in a tree to be your eyes from above and shout things like 3 from the north, Sybil says from her perch. Soon you hear voices and then the priests are passing by. You did not quite appreciate how many of them there were. The first time as you bound a unicorn draws near, you feel her lump in your stomach. There are now priests walking along the sides of the stretcher as though providing protection. Perhaps they heard you crashing through the forest as you worked to get ahead of the column. It's the moment you have been waiting for. You were supposed to signal the attack by starting off with a spell of blazing fire, but you do not move. Reginald looks to you and you shake your head. His eyes betray something disappointment. You burn with shame. I cannot. To attack would be suicide, you tell yourself. When the column passes, Sipper drops to the forest floor. You are a coward, she hisses at you. Being called a coward by a wayfish merchant's daughter will not be among your fondest memories. Why is our once demure, frightened merchant sir suddenly wishing to play the role of a bloodthirsty battle tactician? You wonder, dear Sybil, we will mete out justice to these villains for the death of your father, among other countless evil deeds in due time. You are not trained in the art of war as Reginald and I are. Even if we set a successful ambush, their numbers are simply too great for 2 men. There are 3 of us, Sybil says fiercely as she thrusts out her palm. A blade for me? Certainly adventurers there have more weapons than they need. Reginald shrugs, unbuckles a dagger belt, and hands it to her. Even if they scurry off to fortification of some kind, we will take them. I have the trust of the captain of the guard of Ring City. You will not suffer evil so close, says Reginald. The 3 of you set off after the priests while keeping a good distance away out of the sight most of the time. Luckily, their party is so noisy that tracking them is trivial. After a few hours, your quarry leaves the trail and hikes over a field. You now have to follow a bit closer in order to not lose them. Soon they stop on a hill with a large slab of granite at the top. They set the unicorn down on the slab and surround it. They begin chanting. The chant is infernal, but you can only make out a few words from here. They are chanting a prayer, you think. Something about forgiveness. I am no Nerulian priest, but I do not think this bodes well for the unicorn. says Reginald. They mean to sacrifice him, Sybil says. The unicorn is a him? Reginald asks. Yes, I observed his when they carried him by our hiding spot, Sybil responds. Irrelevant, you say in exasperation. Our enemies stand in the open and on high ground we cannot approach unnoticed. Allow me to lure them to you to the forest edge. I shall play the part of the frightened lost girl. They will be overjoyed to recapture what they lost. You can then attack from your hiding places, says Sybil. No, my lady, they may harm you, says Reginald. I will disembowel them, she says, brandishing the dagger Reginald lent her. I understand your anger for what they did to your father, but do not die a fool, says Reginald. A fool am I, Sybil? Her face is such a visage of malice that you and Reginald both take a step back. Reginald stutters. Perhaps stealth would serve us better, you interject. I might turn invisible, creep into their midst, and cut the unicorn free. My friend, surely your powers are best spent spewing forth gouts of deadly fire, not sneaking about like a rat. Fire and steel, simple and effective, says Reginald. Oh, your first death in any volume in the library. Plenty more where this came from. These aren't so easy. Fight on. Suicidal tendencies. As they say, fools boldly go where angels fear to tread. Certainly they plan to say. Oh. Certainly they plan to sacrifice Unicorn. We must act before they do so. If we can scatter them along enough so we can cut the Unicorn free, then they would have an additional ally. We shall strike like lightning, says Reginald. With you, Reginald, in the lead, you rush up the grassy hill. The murmurs, and chanting from evil spirits turn to shouts of surprise and alarm. Soon dark hissing rays of death magic slice the air around you. You are struck in the leg and go down on one knee. Fortunately, you are close enough to them to use fan of fire. A burst of flames shoot from your outstretched fingers, and several priests wail as they light on fire. Unfortunately for you, this is also when the barrage of death rays from all the other priests begin to earnest. Reginald, with his sword ready, does not even make it to their line before he is cut down, and then they turn their merciless eyes upon you. Alas, you finally succumb to your wounds and collapse. Left. Oh. Okay, let's try last checkpoint. Continue. Follow them. Why is our once the merchant's daughter? Okay, that. Yeah. Very well, we shall help you get your vengeance, Utessa, but if you have any wish to live, do not fight them. Simply lure them into the forest and allow Reginald and myself to do the bloody work. You and Reginald take up ambush positions on each side of the animal trail. When you're ready, Sybil walks off towards the evil priest's hill. Soon you hear shouting, and then Sybil starts prance. Your hiding place, you see 3 narrow priests chasing her and appear to be running perfectly into your ambush position. Nice job, Sybil. You think you had hoped to learn more than 3 since you counted more than 20 total. Killing this trio will do little to thin their numbers. Still, 3 dead villains is a good start, and you can't allow these men to catch Sybil. Reginald leaps out, and with one mighty swing nearly lops off the head of the Nerlin priest in the lead. As planned, Reginald has halted them by attacking the front. Now, it is your turn to strike from the rear. You are not much with a blade, but even a wizard can stab someone in the back well enough. The priest shrieks as you stab him over and over, using a blade for such butchery is beneath you. To be sure, but you are a practical young man, best to save your spell power for when you truly need it. The third one unsheaths the short sword and turns towards you as though to escape back to his comrades. You block his way, and he swings at you. You jump back, but the tip of the sword slices into your stomach. Although you paid for your little blocky maneuver, it allows Reginald to come out from behind and cut the priest down. You clutch your cut stomach. Your tunic has darkened with blood. Nevertheless, you do not think the wound is serious. Reginald hacks the one priest you stabbed, even though he is motionless on the ground. He will not rise, Reginald. You need not make a mess of the corpse of every man I slay, you say. But I must. You wield that dagger like a child, like a little. You put your palm in a gesture that says, I have heard it before. Presently, Sybil trots out of the forest. She stops short of the fallen priest and beams down at them. Wonderful, we should set their heads upon spikes to decorate our camp. Well, it is not time to start playing with their parts just yet. You say they have lost only 3 men out of perhaps 24. I heard a woman scream. Was it the frightened little girl, or Banton? A voice carries from the direction of the priest hill. Laughter trickles in through the trees. We had better do something quick before the suspicions of our remaining enemies are aroused. Reginald whispers, Oh, you caught me. Sybil claps her hands excitedly. Then those cloaks raise their hoods and drag me up the hill. They are not so stupid as to mistake us for their comrades in broad daylight, says Reginald. Well, we dare not attack so many without surprise, and we cannot simply sneak up on them now. Surely they are watching the wood. You say, keep your backs to them. Keep your backs to them as you drag me, Sybil says. Reginald shakes his head. This ambush worked well enough. Perhaps we could call more of them into the wood. Divide them further. Shout to them that we need help searching for the girl. If I have enough power, I could become invisible and go there alone to cut the unicorn free. You think obviously a risky move. A slightly less costly option in terms of mana would be to cast an illusion of goblins to serve as a distraction on one side as Reginald charges up the hill on the other. Titus Banton, come now, this ceremony must continue, one of the Nerlin priests shouts in the distance. Burn me into the ember. Quickly you cast your spell and creep up the hill. The evil priests are bunched together closely in a circle around the slab of granite, so you have to take care. It is critical that you do not touch anyone, because that would break your invisibility illusion. Your spellbook is very explicit about this point. Pass not even like a breeze, for even the wind is felt by man. Become nothing, and nothing will know you. You recall the spell instructions saying one priest shifts to one side, and you have enough room to pass without so much as brushing their long sleeves. Although you have avoided touching anyone, you cannot help making some measure of noise with your footfalls. Fortunately, their chanting deafens them to your passage. Now that you have passed into their inner circle, you can make out their words in infernal language. We praise you, Ancient One. You are free servants, slaves to your will. We ask not for mercy, we ask only to serve. Over and over they repeat this. One of the hooded men looks familiar. Belfour the farmer, he comes into Ring City to sell his apples every harvest. You know him because he always gets drunk and makes trouble. The guards have learned to keep an eye on him when he has coin in his pocket. You would never have imagined he was mixed up with dark powers, though. A few others look familiar too, although you can't place them. They must be locals from Ring City. You are now near the unicorn and have the dagger out. You have a couple of options. You could simply cut the unicorn free and start the fight, or you could try to scare the priest first, using a loop.
Let's play Raid Shadowlands. Legends. Start now for free.
Fair enough. You know that you will cast a more realistic illusion if you pick something you have seen before. What do you choose? Demon from the altar room. The image of that shadowy demon is burned into your mind, and so it is reasonably easy to create the illusion of it. Evidently, you do a good job, for as the shadowy horned horror emerges from the stone slab, gasps erupt from the crowd. All of them fall to their knees and kneel down, butts in the air. We are your slaves. Unrule, we pledge our souls to your ancient power, the head priest says in Infernal. In Alathian's name, back to the abyss, Fanny Unicorn says to the Commandant. One large dark eye staring up at your illusion. You nearly shout in surprise. You've never seen a horse talk. His horsey lips do not move about like a human. Rather, his mouth simply opens and the words spill out. Fear not, Unicorn. You whisper in one of his long ears. It's merely illusion. You then cut the unicorn's bonds with your dagger. The priests still have their faces down in the dirt wherein the unicorn gores the first of them. Soon there are panic-stricken screams. Possessed. He has possessed the beast. Mercy on us. You hear a priest shout as he runs down the hill towards the woods. Several others follow him. You can hold your illusion and your invisibility, no longer trickery. One of the priests shouts. He begins casting a spell, but the unicorn gores him before he finishes it. Kill the beast, shouts Lord Igraine from the mist. The other priest spells are cast, and the air is filled with hissing dark bolts of energy. You duck behind the stone as one sizzles above you. Peeking over the stone, you see several dark bolts strike the unicorn, and it whinnies in pain. Most of the remaining priests are so focused on the unicorn that they don't notice Reginald joining the rear of their fray, swinging his sword with a grim smile on his face. Somehow they are oblivious to the butchery behind them. In the Earl's name die, the Lady Igraine shouts from her father's side, and sends forth a cackling ray into the side of the unicorn's head. The massive horse crashes to the ground. Behind, someone shouts. Now that the priests turn their attention to Reginald, he cannot stand against so many. You charge, dagger in hand, shouting like a madman, with you striking from one side and Reginald on the other. The remnants of the priest scatter in a flurry of stabs. You cut down a final one before he reaches the woods. Shadow falls across your path and you whirl about it. Siba, her ragged dress is blotched with blood, and the dagger Reginald lent her drips with gore of a fresh kill. She has a manic smile on her face. Revenge for my captivity, she exclaims. She then runs off, presumably to hunt down more fleeing priests. You are considering joining her when you catch a glimpse of Lady Igraine's long, beautiful hair disappearing into the forest below. You rush into the woods to investigate, sitting propped against a fallen log only a few meters away is Lord Igraine, whose glassy, lifeless eyes stare down at his entrails spilling out upon his lap. There are symbols drawn in the blood on large stones nearby. Kneeling beside him is Lady Igraine. She is searching his pockets. Where is it? She shouts at her father and then slaps his face. Where is what, you ask? As you take a step closer, she looks at you with sighs and then she smiles. God be praised, you saved me from my cursed father and his minions, she exclaimed. Saved you from them? You are a priestess of death, are you not? You ask. You have fantasized about approaching Lady Igraine more times than you can count, but you never expected your first words would be these. No, I was but a slave to my father, she says, her face contorted in rage. She then smiles down at the mangled corpse next to her. Now he is gone and I am free, but we must not dally here. Unrule, a monster from another world stalks nearby. She points at one of the blood symbols scrawled on a nearby rock. The symbol is infernal. You look back to see Reginald chasing and hacking priests in the grassy field beyond. Lady Igraine extends her gloved and bloodied hand. Small, glowing orbs appear and circle her fingers. She stares at the orbs in trance and says, perhaps with the help of good people I may find again the light of this world. Snapping out of her meditation, she returns her attention to you and says urgently, quickly, gather your friends and follow me. charm her. You point at Lady Grant and recite the magical words, interspersed with blowing kisses in the air. Unfortunately, while you're doing this, she's casting a spell of her own. And that's a kissy one. A dark ray springs from her hand. Just as you complete your spell, her aim is poor, but the ray strikes you in the arm and you feel cold, emitting through you as you sink to the ground. No, she exclaims as she rushes over to you. I'm so sorry, my love. Now she's holding you and her arms create under your head. She bends down and kisses you. You forget the cold and close your eyes. She might be evil, but her lips are like honey. You think you release yourself to the ecstasy of the moment, but your trance is interrupted. A shaft followed by a womp. Regnant sits above you, his sword dripping. Lady Agran lies nearby, bloody and motionless. Regnald, you shout, gods, are you well? Regnald asked, did that succubus drain the life from you? I saw her strike you with that death magic and then suck upon you. I am alive, and my soul intact, you say weakly. I pray I saved you from any perversions, Regnald asks. I suffered no perversions. You met her sadly as you dare one last glance at the beautiful corpse. You stand up and grab Regnald's shoulder for balance. Regnald looks down at the body. Oh, it is the Lady Agrane. I remember how you used to speak of her. I am sorry. You smile weakly. We may need a drink tonight. Regnald nods. Siba as well, he says. He points to the girl who is now running around the grassy hill crying and tripping in a panic. Only moments ago our little merchant star was dashing about this field, wielding that dagger of a mine like a bloodthirsty assassin. Now who is she? Is this the way of women? You shrug and jog out onto the grass. Take Siba by the wrist to try and calm her, but Regnald announces that he will search just a few bodies before fleeing. No use in letting the vultures swallow our treasure, he says cheerfully. It's not safe to stay out in the open. We must not dally. You warn your frantic going. Siba tugs to free herself from your grasp. Just stand above on the hill. The unicorn stands. His legs are shaking and his eyes are bulging. You thought he was dead. No, not this. The unicorn bellows. He pauses for a moment and then shouts triumphantly, this world is mine. Upon uttering this pronouncement, the unicorn gallops towards the granite slab and proceeds to bash its own head into it. You hear the horns snap with a crack. Blood splatters the white rock. The creature batters its skull over and over. Gods, why? No, Regnald stammers. Siba commences screaming with renewed vigor. After a few seconds of this self-mutilation, the unicorn with its jagged stub of a horn turns and charges down the hill towards you. All three of you shout as you run with abandon. When you reach the woods, you look back to see the unicorn thrashing on the grass, screeching in an unearthly tone. Evil magic, Regnald says. You stare in the horror and realize that this magic is beyond your understanding. Rushing for the other's fault, you say, we have pressed good fortune long enough. Let us return to Ring City and the company of good people. The three of you set off towards Ring City, your beloved home. You and Regnald are grateful to have some company for the lengthy walk. The two of you have long since exhausted your trove of stories and can nearly predict what each other will say. Sibyl, on the other hand, is full of stories of faraway places, creatures, and magic you've never heard of before. Merchant's daughter must really get around. As it turns out, Siby's family has recently moved to Ring City, and her brother Jordan tends the candle shop there. Nevertheless, she bombards you with questions about the city. She seems to want to know everything from who's who in the noble families down to the local gossip. The time passes quickly. By nightfall, the tall gates of the city rise above you. The guards, typically a suspicious lot, usher the three of you in without hesitation. They have known you and Regnald for years. Regnald was once even a member of the guard. Once inside, you immediately head to your loft. There you rest and apply healing ointments to your wounds. You hide the majority of your loot under your floorboards. By the following evening, you are refreshed and feeling stronger and more powerful than ever. You toss a handful of gold coins into your money pouch. You meet up with Siba and Regnald at the Leering Virgin Inn for some much-deserved celebration. Three of you feast and drink and tell stories exaggerated, of course, to the inn regulars and otherwise. Thoroughly enjoy yourself. There is no justice, there is no law, there is only power. You quote from the first Page of the book bound in human skin that you lifted from the sacrificial altar in Inverness Castle. Sounds just like what a sounds just like what a zombie raising no good Gorgon's arse would write. Reginald says with slurred speech. The three of you are alone at the table in a corner of the inn, as all of the other patrons have grown bored of your boasting and tall tales and have gone to bed. You page through the book. Oh, what's this? You exclaim. This speaks of the Baroness Ireland lying with Sir Roger of Chesterford. Evil gossip no more, Sybil says, and then takes a swig of wine. Well, the account seems rather detailed. You read further, and Guildmaster Franz Perkles has been skimming gold from the mint, melting the coins down and recasting them with more copper. Aha, I thought the coins from the money changer were light. Reginald begins rummaging in his pockets. What is that? A book of dirty secrets? Sybil asks, pointing at the book of music. I rather think it is. Why, so little book might be worth more than the rest of our loot put together, you say, and you think the Lady Grey might have been looking for that book, says Reginald. He casts his eyes down to the table. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to bring her to mind. You put up your hand to reach your friend. It is well that I learned to not judge a woman by her face, you say, doing your best to give a coming thing short. I had heard House of Green had fallen on hard times. Desperation leads to an evil path, does it not? Reginald nods, vigorously sloshing his drink. The glassy-eyed expressions on your friends' faces, and the last thing you see before you black out. When you regain awareness, you are standing over a bed, shouting, "No, Reginald, you can't die, please." You are pushing down on Reginald's neck, attempting to stem the flow of blood. It is no use. He is deathly still on the blood-stained bed. There is no pulse. God's no, you shout and run out of the room. You are now in what you recognize as a hallway of the leering Virgin, and you shout for help and look back at the helplessly. From here you can see the bloody finger painting on the wall. Around Reginald runes an infernal that appear to be some sort of spell used to harvest power from a soul. There are footsteps from behind you, and you turn to see Sagar, an old man approaching. Sees that one, the old man croaks as he points at you. He is the murderer, to be continued. Dear reader, there is a map of the area of your recent adventure. Don't expect much accuracy. Medieval cartographers did not sweat the details. Also, you can see a more complete map of Ring City and the surrounding areas. Every time I select me maps from the main menu. There's a great deal more adventure ahead, but go see the stats on your first chapter. Completed Wizard Shorts, Volume 1. Points was 10. More of that. I used to have nice. Play next chapter. Unlock it. Okay. Well, this is where I'm going to end this video. So, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.